us, for instance, right in the room.
The state or your local?
The state DOT.
Oh.
And the county. So,
they're working
we
together.
would
No, that's
working
great.
together.
That's really
we
great.
pop it on the map, and then throughout the course of the event, for instance, we would upload that shapefile and send it up to the state DOC.
Yeah, the point I was trying to make, Tim, was I remember back when the road wasn't closed, the state DOT guy went out there and, or gal, and saw that it was closed. And, you know, you got the local government going, it's closed. No, it's not closed officially yet. So evidently we've gone way beyond.
That was
That's
the
great.
verification process.
That's great. Yeah. I'm sorry, you had more? Or you don't want to talk? Because
well, the one point is kind of to your question, Bruce, is the state has local response and then like, let's call it the Albany response or a regional response. So a lot of local or you know, county residencies in DOT's case or else other agencies, those people are responding on a local level. And then it moves up so you have a more comprehensive picture. A couple days into this, the state would definitely be looking at prioritizing efforts. You know, would it make more sense to clear the roads to a power system so utilities can get in there versus just clearing some minor roads just because you did mileage. Other agencies would be tracking the outages so you could steer resources or sheltering resources to where the power is out, so those are the people who aren't able to maintain
it's
comfort levels.
Yeah, so it's coordination of priorities for clearing roads and coordination of priorities for power to see.
Well, moving the state's resources.
Okay.
You know, where are the shelters that are getting a lot of use? You know, move the food and water there. You know, other things like that. But the state tries to get the bigger picture.
Okay. Excellent. You guys got involved yet?
It kind of depends on the state. The federal government cannot come in to do anything until the state requests it.
Yep.
The governor has to declare a state of emergency in the state, and he has to notify the White House that he needs federal help, and the White House will then either declare the emergency or deny it, but in this case, it's likely that it would be declared. Meanwhile, we would have been standing by ready for it. So we activate something called the Regional Response Coordination Center, and we bring in other federal agencies, and the state comes, and things like the American Red Cross come there to help coordinate. And we're in contact with the state EOC, reporting to them and reporting up if it's need be to the National Response Coordination Center. The federal government is only there in support of the state. We don't make any decisions about who will respond where, except when we're requested to supply the stuff. So that's, you know, we're really, people call it FEMA first responders, and I laugh because there's never been a FEMA person who was called to pull somebody out of their house. You know, that's local response. And you know, all we're doing is, at the request of the state, we are sending what the state asks us to send. So if there need to be generators and that's more than the state can handle, then the federal government will start sending generators. Or they'll start sending meals ready to eat, or blue tarps, or water, depending on what is requested. And that is really our role. What we say is, for the first 72 hours, the local and state governments are on their own. It takes that long to get anything out of the federal government. And so that's something, you know, we do a lot of work with preparedness for individual families, because we say everybody's an emergency responder when there's a disaster, and everybody needs to be responsible for their own safety first. So, you know, the education you talked about earlier, getting people prepared to have what they need so that they can sustain themselves in their own homes, is something we try to do way in advance. This is not something that you have time for in the days before one of these events. And, you know, we are literally waiting for the state to ask us to help. And in the case of something major like Sandy, the White House actually called the two governors and said, this is going to be bad. You need to ask for a declaration, and the governors did in advance. But generally, it happens days into the event. And something like this, it would be days into the event.
Yeah, and that's something I learned early on, that I was just like, where the hell's FEMA? You know, and really, they can't, you know, it's at least, it's probably more likely 4 to 5 days before you're depending on the event.
It depends on the event, so yes, oftentimes it'll be 4 or 5 days. Sandy obviously was a lot sooner because we knew in advance it was coming. You know, an ice storm, you don't necessarily know what the impacts are gonna be. So in that case, my guess is they probably wouldn't ask for the state of emergency until Wednesday or Thursday,
Right.
you know. And then it's, you know, another few hours before we get anything on the road.
Yeah. Okay, and now,
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, Julie, what you were saying is not quite accurate, because in fact, you were tremendously proactive during Sandy. And I suspect with a major event in the future, particularly the GIS coordination thing, is something you probably jump into earlier, you know, as much in advance as possible. So-
Right, I can't put boots on the ground
Right.
legally, because I'm the federal government and states have rights.
So who is in charge?
Well, it kind, in the early days, it's whoever's on the ground first. So, you know, the local government's in charge. And then when they're, you know, then they get the county involved, and the county may get the state involved. And so it moves up, literally, who's in charge moves up. But really on something this size, you know, it's the state that's really in charge.
Brian,
Yeah, I think the biggest frustration that a lot of, you know, people who do GIS and who, you know, may want to volunteer or be active during these situations is that there's no real, you know, each organization has their processes in place. There's no real source of getting that out. Like state, county governments, they don't provide public APIs where a developer can go in and build an application specific to their, you know, geographic area. Here's all the stuff, you know, from the state, my county, FEMA, or the processes to, you know, crowdsource some of that information. So we as, you know, highly trained web developers or application developers, you know, if you make the data available to us, we'll gladly build the tools. But we spend all of our time, like Don said, going to our local newspaper or all these different sources trying to put together a common. I mean, that's why you see sites like NYGeoCon or Google Maps. You know, people are putting these together because there's no system in place for all of these pieces to talk together.
When I put my web map together, I tried to contact county, state government, you know, all these agencies,
Right,
and
but
they're just, no, I can't tell you that.
If you knew
I had to wait
beforehand,
until it was printed in the paper. You know, I had a list of all newspaper websites that I went to, Twitter feeds, and then I gathered that information.
if you knew beforehand there was a REST API endpoint or a web map service or a Google Doc,
Right.
that was, you know, the source, and you could have access to that, that would have a lot of value.
yeah, I mean, Doug's got a website that I have to access with my iPhone. Is that been optimized for?
No,
No.
you gotta have a login to access our site,
National
for the
Grid doesn't have
emergency
API.
Okay,
application.
all right, so, okay, that's fine, keep that in mind, folks. I don't know, I have yes, sir.
I have a question. It seems like I work for municipalities, every time we have a major emergency, we get a call from the county. Not even 24 hours in sometimes saying, how much damage do you have, how much have you spent, how much do you estimate you're going to spend? And here we are trying to be first responders, and we're getting these calls trying to estimate this, I guess, so they can escalate it and say, countywide, we have this much damage, and then we can declare an emergency. Is that the only way that mechanism works, or is it, can you, other than Sandy when they do it in advance, that an emergency can be declared countywide or statewide, that we don't have to spend time on a municipal level trying to put numbers together when we're just trying to get the job done?
Isn't that the way it works though? I mean,
As far as I know, that's the way you do it. I mean, they're typically, when it gets to the federal government, and I'm not involved in the state or local level, obviously, but, you know, they do something called a preliminary damage assessment. And that preliminary damage assessment determines whether the damage is bad enough to make it a federal declaration. So they're asking you for that to get you help.
Right,
So so I recognize how it must be difficult to do all of it at once, but that is the reason, it's the declaration process.
Okay, but we have to put a monetary value on it versus, hey, we've got, half of the city power outage, and we've got 300 block roadways or something like that. That's not sufficient. And that's what I could never understand, is that we're
It's
trying to put a dollar
the
value.
legislation that was written, that's how the legislation was written.
Okay.
And it's all legislated, how all this happened.
And it's a metric, right? That's something people can understand, dollars. So we guess it's a pain in the butt, but you gotta do it, yeah. Yes,
I would like to add something. My approach would be, before doing all this, it's kind of more simplistic, but it can be very helpful.
speak up a little bit.
You can make a straight GIS approach, like adding all the layers, like the census. You can have all these prepared, like where you have addresses where ill people with special needs are staying, or hospitals, or everything you can think of, and then add the disaster layer on it, like the weather, I know something, some spill or something, everything is. You can model that, so you already can know where you have the most damaged areas, where you need the most quick response and stuff like that, you know.
Well, you can have that ahead of time, but you still need to have the event-specific information plugged in. You should have that if you haven't done it, you really should.
Yeah.
That's part of you doing your homework ahead of time.
You can do that before the disaster.
Yeah.
You know, so when it occurs, you can do it like in half an hour.
Hopefully, yeah, that would be great.
So you can share that with everyone and
Yeah,
give it.
so getting, yes,
One of the things we do is always, we need to figure out, this is stuff you need to do in the first 6 hours, 12 hours, or 2 days, or 3 days, and figure that, the stuff you need in the first 12 hours is, okay, what's happening immediately, and 2 days later, you already know, now we gotta plan that out, and that kind of progression.
yep.
And
Go ahead.
those plans, at least at the federal level, those plans are written. So, they have, in every region, we have a hurricane plan, we have an earthquake plan, we have a tsunami plan, because Region 2 also includes Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. Tsunamis are not a huge issue in New York State. But, we have for major events, not necessarily for snowstorms, but for major events, we have a timeline of what you need to get when you need to get it. Historically, the weakest part of those plans is the GIS information, because they're written by emergency managers who think GIS is the digital version of putting pins in a map. So they're beginning to change, and they're beginning to say, we need the modeling for, we need the input from. But, it's recently, all of the regional geospatial coordinators in FEMA from the hurricane-prone states got together, and we put together a timeline of what information would be asked for when through the first 72 hours of a hurricane. And it's the first time it's ever been done inside FEMA, which is a major agency. So a lot of these plans exist, at least at the federal level, probably at the state level. I don't know whether at the county level, the emergency management agencies have put together those plans. A lot of it relies on experience of people like Doug, who's been doing it for a long time, and a ridiculous number of issues in the last few years. So some of it's not necessarily on paper, but they do have the experience that tells them what they need to know when they need to know it.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop at this point on this thing, and let's identify who needs to know what. So the county needs to know the value of the damage that's created at the municipal level, correct?
Yes, but I think we're pushing it up, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, yeah.
And
It's that
Gets
great
that shame,
sucking,
yeah.
yes. Yes, yeah.
The other part is, in addition to that documentation, is documenting any part of the disaster, because you're gonna need that for potential reimbursement. So it's kind kind of doing two things, you know, or multiple things at once.
It's
like
easier
they
for
all-
me to poll my managers that have been keeping their logs 2 days after the original emergency is contained, or at least controlled, and say, okay, start giving me your information 2 days from now. And they have all that backup for all the FEMA forms that we have to fill out. But
Is any of this GIS driven?
absolutely.
Okay. And what's that?
Well, when you start talking about damage, you're talking about structures, you're talking about tree damage, you're talking about debris removal. If you locate it on a map, you can then summarize the features and tables associated with it.
Okay, and so, can we capture that in some color somewhere? Yes.
I've seen an example of, in situ context of, there's a county somewhere else in the country that had the very
Speak up a little,
simple,
Sharon.
had a simple entry form, mobile, it could be detached, so you didn't have to actually, have an internet connection. And it would automatically feed the information into the FEMA formatted forms, and then as soon as you could get back to an internet connection, you could just submit it and that's it.
Mobile
So that would
form,
speed
feeds
that
into the FEMA
deficit.
system, anybody used it yet? No, okay, but that's a good idea.
You said you had like 4 or 5 different slides there. You had a USGS one, a FEMA one.
Yeah.
Where should all this stuff flow up to? Which conduit and who's?
Well, I think it's flowing internally through this part, but that's only part of it. I mean, we've got to feed the engine that gets the money back to support the people that have been damaged. So that's one part of this thing. And then but the other part that is, and we've started to hit on this, and I'm just here because we're going to run out of time in 9 minutes. How are we going to get? We've got basic survival information that we need to get to people, and so far Doug's got stuff on a website, but you can't get to it because you need a password. And
No, there's 2 different sites. I mean,
Oh, I'm
that-
sorry.
That application is strictly for emergency managers.
Okay, all right.
Because you don't want to destroy the quality of the data.
Yep.
But then we summarize that by exporting it out on a public website,
Oh, okay.
along with where the shelters are, what's open, are they pet friendly, et cetera, et cetera.
So that's the good information we need
Yeah.
to get to the people. The problem is, I got this in my hand, and that's all that's working right now. And so I need, there's the lost part of that is,
The other problem is you have to go to the county site to get that information, you have to go to National Grid to get the power outage information, you have to go to the newspaper to get, road school closure updates. There's no kind of comment.
so we need a common place to get the information, and we need it to be on an app or something that people know about. I'm saying that, so argue with me or say I'm wrong.
No, by the time it gets to the newspaper, it's already outdated a lot of times.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not- And honestly, they don't verify it.
Yeah.
That's why I said it's.
What about the
best data comes
radio?
from highways.
I'm sorry, what?
Radio broadcast?
Radio broadcast, if I've got a radio that I can hear. That's right, but it's in the garage and the ice has coated the door and I can't keep it open, but I can run it for a little while, what the heck?
Well, and that's what people did. I mean, people charged the cell phones in their car, which is why the gas shortage became an issue, because that was where they were getting their information. And I would say to people in local towns, I have a friend who's a mayor of a small town, and she said everybody was focused on the electronic information getting out. And they had, in the whole town, probably 30 homes with power. And ultimately, what they ended, and luckily for them, City Hall was one of the places that have power. What they ended up doing was doing lists of information that they thought people needed, printing them out, and literally, city workers went door to door, because sometimes low tech works too.
Yeah.
But that has to be done, obviously, at a very local level. The state is not gonna go door to door to every state town. So, sometimes you have to remember that high tech is great, and you need to look at those things, but you also have to remember low tech ways of getting information out there.
Confirm when we not have a cell phone.
Right, or know how to use it to surf the web.
So we need an app, but we need to know about it. And we need to have an app that would be really good if it had, combined the utilities and the road closures and the shelters, or 2 or 3 of those things anyway, Wouldn't that be
One
nice?
app for each ESF.
ESF, okay. I got it, I understand it, but I bet you most people don't know what an ESF is, and I'm not thinking if I'm the public, I really give a rat's ass what an ESF is, you know? But, yeah, but let's get it down to where's the shelter, where's the power, and where the roads open? Is there a way to get that?
No, not today.
No, I mean, is there a way to do that, to move forward and get that?
Why, what's so hard about making one website that combines all that information?
Well, I wanted one app, so.
I'll tell you what, the utility company does not want you to know exactly where the outages are. We've had that issue before. We're at the point now where they'll share a little bit with us, more than they used to. They don't want everyone to know. They want to know, yeah, there's 500 outages here, there's 300 outages here, but it's public relations. They don't want the public to know just how bad it is, or how long it's going to take, or the fact that maybe the resources are deployed somewhere else and they haven't gotten to your town yet.
All right, well, I'm a pragmatist. So the utility companies are oh, all right, they're all, let me put them on the back burner somewhere. How do let's do something we got under our control. How do we do our roads, and shelters?
The technology is the easy part. Right? The app could be built in the time it took us
To talk about it,
to do this session.
okay?
And it could be built on all open source tools, and it could be given away, you know, per municipality and hosted on a very inexpensive web server. It's the processes that are the holdup.
Processes and the politics.
All right,
But that's why you see the success of, you know, Ushahidi and these other Google Maps, because people can contribute that information without any roadblocks. They don't have to, you know.
But you have to be careful, because we as a municipal, during Sandy, we had people calling stuff in, we sent guys out there, we sent valuable resources to check it out. It wasn't true.
But were you publishing these?
No,
lists
but I
on
mean,
your own?
we were taking in calls from any source whatsoever,
Right.
versus Rockland County is saying, we're only gonna take it from our people.
Right.
And when we were taking it from everybody, including what was coming in from the utilities, a lot of it was either false or incomplete. And
Yeah,
putting that on the
I've heard
map,
that from a lot of emergency
putting
management.
that on the map
GIS
may be
people.
more detrimental than not publishing a map at all.
What about the state setting up a website just for that purpose of, here's the data, whatever data that they're willing to officially release, and when groups want to go to this, okay, here's one website for every place in the state, whatever their data that you guys have, that you get. Do that.
Well, the state has the roadway safety, the RISDA.
Right, but
They
some
collect a
place
bunch of data,
where
but it's not available.
the stuff that they're willing to release, because I'm working on responses too, where I know there's stuff here or there that I can't release it until
Basic
it's gone through the political chain.
Right.
But once the stuff's gone through that political chain, and if the state has one website, they could have that. So this is a data sharing spot just for emergency response for the public, and then you could go to that type of site and pull whatever data's there, and whatever way that you can create to make that more beneficial.
I think part of the problem though is the age of the data. I mean, some data
Well,
may
the
be.
data's gonna have to have a date on it,
Right,
time and
but
date.
I'm saying, but then when you try to pull all that data together, on one centralized site, how much of it is 12 hours ago, how much of it is 2 days ago?
Well, the date should be on there. When you open it up, there should be some kind of metadata. If you're a professional, you know to look at that. You know, every map on emergency response has a time and date on it.
The quality control with the crowdsourcing data, you're not looking at each individual incident that appears from a crowdsourced, person. You're looking at the general pattern and group. If, 5 people are reporting their houses don't have, power in this area, most likely it's true. If five people are reporting a tree's down on the street, most likely there is. So it's giving you a general picture. So what we have to do is keep those data sources separate between professional verified data and the crowdsourced generalized data.
So we've now got volunteer data with a volunteered app, but we need a volunteered place to put that data, right?
And currently, that volunteer place is Google Crisis Maps. That's where it is. And that's, I think, where it'll stay for the near being. Open source is new for emergency responders, it's new for everybody. And, you know, that's one of the waves of the future, and it's the nut we have to crack, but it's not cracked yet.
What if we did that state one, that's verified data that we always had as of that date?
That's very doable, yeah. I mean, there's a couple different apps out there, NY Alert, that is public. It's just changing the process.
Yeah.
Load the data in that app.
Into the app.
And then making it something that people with limited power can get to.
Yeah, and that's the key. I'm really sorry, but, you know, I think we covered a lot of ground. The time is up. You guys are a great audience, and I just want you to know, we didn't get into this part of the discussion, but I really, really wanted to, and I'm sorry we just didn't get into zombies, because I thought that would be the ultimate, you know.
Are we zombies or?
No, no. Thank you all. Appreciate it.